So, as we talk about identifying yourself, there are many ways that you can go ahead and figure out who you are. But this is one interesting thing that happened today on our way to karate, taking my son to his karate class. While sitting in the car, driving along, he asks, "Well, Mommy, if the dogs in our family, in our nuclear family, if there were people, what would they be like? Can you describe them?" So went ahead and naming each dog and what the personality would be as a human, and then which was interesting because you had to think about, okay, this is what they do as a dog, this is how they behave, so this is how they would be as a human. Well, then he did the flip side. He was like, well, what if we were dogs? What kind of dog would we be? And I had to pause for a second because I'm like, well, I never really thought about that. Have any of you thought about, like, one, what kind of animal you would be, and then two, what kind of personality or behavior traits your personality will look like in an animal? So going back to the dog scenario, I had to go through and think about who each of us were and what we did, our habits, what we're drawn to, and everything about our personality, and then translating it into a dog. And that definitely was eye-opening because I had to now weed through, okay, what do I think of myself and what are the actual truths of who I am? So when you're doing something like this, do you find yourself with a lot of gaps or with nothing to say or nothing to add? Because I realized that it does pinpoint, or it does bring to light, if you do a lot of negative self-talk or self-doubt. And it shows because you're like, well, what else can I add? What else can this dog that I would be look like, do, act like? And then you have to really sit back and honestly look at yourself and be like, well, I'm not really a negative person. I am not really a person that has all this doubt about myself. So why can't I pinpoint who I would be as a dog? Well, it's because we don't think about ourselves in that light, or we don't think about ourselves positive, or pull. Those are not the obvious characteristics that we tend to focus on. And that is sad because we tend to focus on what we do wrong, how we react, bad reactions. We tend to focus on more of the negative than the positive. And it's kind of like, it reminded me of, like, that interview question, or the 2 interview questions when you go for a job interview. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Well, with the strengths, you're like, unless you've prepped really well beforehand, for the most part, at least in my case, I would kind of like pause and be like, well, what can I say? I may have my list, I may have gotten ready with this question, but it would feel like bragging. So why don't we like to talk about the positives that we do, we think? All those positive qualities about ourselves, why do we put those on the back burner? Why don't we're not boasting about it, but you're celebrating them. Why can't we celebrate the positives? Then it comes to the question of, what are your weaknesses? Now, on this side, you definitely have a long list of your weaknesses, but you want to get higher. So what are you going to do? You're not going to give your list of weaknesses. So you kind of look for the minute, or the not really weakness that has nothing to do with the job qualifications or the job duties, or working with other people or in a company, or so on and so forth. But you would have a list of all the weaknesses. And that brings to question, like, why do we have a longer list of everything that we do wrong? It's because we have kind of geared ourselves to think about that first. Is it because we want to change? That's why we have all the negatives that are at the forefront of defining who we are? or thinking about who we are? Or is it because it's something that we feel is who we are that defines us? But our negative qualities, our negative traits, our negative behavior should not be what defines us. Our positive should. So I want you to go ahead and try this exercise and try and first think about your favorite animal. Secondly, think about what kind of personality, behavior would this animal exhibit if they were you. And then make a list. Make a list and see which side, what you have more of. And this will be a great exercise to start thinking and changing your mindset to think of yourself in a positive light. Yes, we all make mistakes. We all need to learn more, but that doesn't mean we have to focus on all the bad that happens, all the negative traits that we have. Go ahead and list that down below, and it should be interesting to see what all of you think, because this definitely has gotten me thinking. That's why I am doing this in the car as I wait. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you later.